StreamYard. Okay. Spartans, Huskers, two teams coming off of a bye week, two teams hungry for a win to get into the rest of their season with. Let's go.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans and Locked On Nebraska is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Spartan friends, Spartan family, that's right. It's not just me over there. Mitch Sherman, Locked On Nebraska. How is life on your side of the corn over there, my man?
Things are good. Matt, good to be with you. Thanks for having me in. We are, of course, here today to talk about Michigan State at Nebraska, Saturday, Memorial Stadium. Going to be beautiful weather in Lincoln, Nebraska, 4 Eastern, 3 Central, FS1. So both teams 3-1, both teams coming off of a bye, 0-1 in the Big Ten after Michigan State went out to USC and lost, and Nebraska lost at home, 3-point game against Michigan. So I have to ask you right off the top, how is Michigan State feeling coming off of this extended break after the beginning of conference play?
In search of a marquee win. And, obviously USC, what a great opportunity that would have been. But they closed as 3 touchdown underdogs. That would have been asking a lot for them to win that game. But this is one that is, I understand it's a 10.5-point spread, but it's a little more attainable than a USC game would have been. And that's not to say that I'm predicting a Michigan State win. But this would be, and I've been using this word all week on Locked On Spartans, this would be a tide turner right now because, look, Jonathan Smith, I like him as a coach. I think he did a great job rebuilding Oregon State. I think things are going, for the most part, the right direction here in East Lansing. But it's not a lot of fanfare. It's not a lot of pizzazz. It's just a very vanilla way of rebuilding things, and some fans are already out on the guy. Now, some, I would like to think most, are still patient enough for this rebuild. But if you get a nice road win against a brand name like Nebraska as 10-point underdogs, that would be a tide turner for this program. That would be the jolt of energy that a program in a state like Michigan State absolutely needs right now. But Mitch, here's a dumb question. How good are you guys? Because obviously week 1, I loved watching that game. You guys beat Cincinnati, and then you beat up Akron, you beat up Houston Baptist, and then obviously the close game against Michigan, waiting for that well-storied, vaunted top 25 win, but came up just short. So shake all that up, pour it in a glass. You guys top 25 good? You guys not? How good are you guys over there?
Yeah, you talk about Michigan State needing a marquee win. Nebraska is as desperate as, or more desperate than any Power 4 team in the country for a marquee win. It's been more than a decade, which is just amazing to say, since Nebraska beat a top 25 team. The Michigan game, 30-27, in some ways it wasn't as close as the final score indicated. Michigan had its way with Nebraska in the trenches on the offensive and the defensive side for the Wolverines, 286 rushing yards. Nebraska fans are tired at this point. It's been 10 days since that game of hearing about those numbers. So I won't make everybody relive that, but it was an uphill climb for Nebraska. Huskers never led in that game, had the Hail Mary at the end of the first half to pull even, and then Michigan took over early in the second half before Nebraska made it close at the end. So, the jury's still out to answer your question about how good Nebraska is. Is Nebraska a top 25 team? Not right now. Not after 4 games, 2 against subpar competition. The Cincinnati game, and Cincinnati looks better than I think people expected going into the season. Bearcats are playing good ball in the Big 12 and might make that win by the end of the year or by the middle of the year. Even now, look better than what people thought coming out of that neutral site opener in Kansas City. But that took a Nebraska interception in the end zone as the final minute ticked away to preserve that win. And, kind of the same old story. The score was different, but same old story with Nebraska having a lot of heartache against Michigan in the Big Ten opener. So, much like Michigan State, Nebraska's just out there searching and looking for looking for what it's been in search of now, going on 3 coaching regimes. So at least Michigan State can say it hasn't been that long since the wins
it feels like
were there
days,
against marquee teams. Yeah.
It feels like it's been a hot minute. What word would you use to describe like Nebraska fans' mindset at this game? Because I'll say it again, like 10.5-point favorites, like that is a sizable margin right there. Nebraska should win this game. All the books are telling you, all the analytics and what have you. But is there like creeping concern? Like what one word would you use to describe the emotions going into Saturday here?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's always important to take the temperature of the fan base, and I think people have been anxious in the days since the Michigan game. People are not quite sure if they want to buy everything that this team is selling because of the play on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Okay. Nebraska has outstanding skill talent. I think that's been determined through 4 games. It's something that we thought we knew about this team going into the season, and it's proven to be true both on the offensive side in the secondary. Nebraska's number 1 in the country in pass defense, yards allowed per game. Its passing attack, number 2 in the country. But you'd like to see the passing attack maybe ranked 15th or 20th, and the rushing attack be a little bit higher. So Nebraska football was built on these standards of toughness and of physical play. And I get that it's been a long time since the days when Nebraska just ran over teams. We're not exactly talking about that. I don't think Nebraska fans are longing for that. They're remembering even early times in the Big Ten era for Nebraska, which began in 2011, of course, when the Huskers held their own in the trenches against, Penn State, Michigan, others in the Big Ten. And it's just not the football that we've seen yet through 4 games. So I think the jury's, I said this on just like the overall tone of the team, but I think also with the way the fans feel about this team, the jury is kind of still out, and they're waiting for, something to kind of reveal the identity of who Nebraska is. Is that similar in Michigan because of, you had the close game, double overtime against Boston College, and a team that Nebraska's familiar with. Huskers beat the Eagles in the Pinstripe Bowl last year, and then of course the disappointing trip out to LA.
That's the funny thing, right? Like I would have killed to be 3-1 going into the season. Did we expect it? Yes, but boy, is actually accomplishing the expected. Not always a guarantee in college football, Mitch, but yeah, I would have been ecstatic with it. Then again, hey, you know what? Double overtime, you beat Boston College in the moment. We're all celebrating. This is great. They absolutely needed that win because a loss would have been crushing for the optics of this program. And then a week goes by. And then Youngstown State actually has moderate success moving the ball. And while I never had any doubts that Michigan State was going to win that game, the defense for Michigan State did not play the way they should against an FCS opponent. And I don't care that it's a top 25 FCS opponent. That was the 3rd most passing yards that quarterback has ever had in his career, and he's not even known for passing the ball. Wow. And then a few hours after that, Mitch, Boston College loses to a really bad Stanford team. And now we're hitting the pause button like, okay, that was actually kind of messed up last week that we needed double overtime to beat Boston College when Stanford just beat them, and our defense just looked like that against Youngstown. Then you fast forward the following week, USC. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all bad. Our offense has taken considerable strides from last year. Aidan Chiles looks great. Our NFL wide receivers, they're looking pretty good right now. Our run game is fine enough. But man, did that defense not have a chance at stopping anyone from USC. And I got on. I wasn't too happy with how it looked, and I understand that I wasn't expecting to beat USC, but I expected more than 2 stops on defense. I expected to maybe give up less than 8.6 yards per play, which they did against USC. It was a helpless feeling. So that's a long-winded way of saying that, hey, 3-1's great. I'm optimistic about the offense, but this defense, oh boy, coming out of a bye week, they need to show us just a glimmer of some shred of barely having hope for the rest of the season ahead, because, oh my, has it looked like anything but that after 4 games into this season. Mitch, I'd love to grill you a little bit more about your Huskers over there, including, we're going to start with Dylan Raiola, but first I need to talk everyone's ear off about Mazda. That's right, guys. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply just move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same attention to how we craft every single model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls, and with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive confident through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It's Mazda, move and be moved. Also, guys, Monarch Money. That's right. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, you name it. People can get lost out there. And when you don't have the full picture, you could end up leaving money on the table. And that is where Monarch Money comes into play. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface right there on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. How nice and delightful does that sound, guys? Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with promo code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, Mitch, I'm not going to start this with saying, hey, Patrick Mahomes 2.0. I'm better than that today.
I have not heard that. It's strange that you bring that up. It seems like that's a new storyline you have.
I make astute observations that most people don't really get here, but I think that's a way of just people maybe deflecting about how solid of a season Dylan Raiola has been having so far this year. Is he like one of the best in the nation? I wouldn't go that far, but boy, is he starting to look at that 5-star mold right now. What's the best step of growth that he's taken so far from last season, you think?
Yeah, Nebraska and Matt Rhule would go that far. They would say that Dylan Raiola is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Now, you don't see him showing up in the Heisman straw polls yet at the Athletic, where I work my day job. We conduct a straw poll. First one of those came out this week. There were 16 players named. Dylan was not among those. I think if he had the numbers, he had the performance against Michigan, first quarterback in it was 3 years to throw for 300 yards against Purdue did this. Aidan O'Connell from Purdue was the last quarterback to go over 300 yards against Michigan. Last quarterback to do it, and also have 3 touchdown passes like Dylan did was Stetson Bennett from Georgia back in 2021 in the college football playoff. He's in some elite company there. And, I think that's appropriate for the kind of season that he's had, the kind of performance that he had. Now, he did take 7 sacks, really 8 sacks. There was one at the end where he let the ball go and it was caught by an offensive lineman. So we're going to count that as a sack. But 8 sacks is of course, in part on the offensive line, coached by his uncle, Donovan Raiola. So they need to do a better job protecting him this week against Michigan State. And I would expect that they will. Michigan had a ferocious pass rush that the Huskers will see maybe once more this season as their remaining 8 games are played. But yeah, Dylan is doing all the things that Nebraska and offensive coordinator Dana Holgorsen are asking him to do. He's diagnosing defenses. He's checking at the line of scrimmage. He's making the right reads. He's going through his progressions. He's more mobile. He's still not mobile like Aidan Chiles or like Bryce Underwood, but he's more mobile in the pocket than what we saw in his true freshman season last year when he started all 13 games. He's making smart decisions. Just the 1 interception on a tip pass in 4 games, completing 75% of his throws for 1,200 plus yards. So it's been an outstanding start, and really it's been what the Nebraska coaches and his teammates have expected of him this year because of the tremendous offseason that they all said that he had.
I can't make sense of the run game because there are some stats out there, there's some analytics out there that say that Nebraska is very efficient at running the ball. But then there's also stats out there that say they're not necessarily explosive. They're very limited in the 10-plus yard runs.
Mm-hmm.
Help me make sense of this. Are you satisfied with the run game so far, or is there a lot left to be desired, do you think?
There's a lot left to be desired. Nebraska has just one experienced running back in Emmett Johnson.
Yeah.
And then just kind of a hodgepodge behind him. And one of the priorities for Rhule and for Holgerson and EJ Barthel, the running backs coach, in the bye week was to identify who is that RB2. And that's a troubling thing, a troubling position to be in when you've played 4 games. Now, if you're 1 game into the season and you're not sure who that second running back is, then okay, I get it. But they're 4 games in, and they've had some bumps in the road. The running back who came into the season or came into the preseason as the number 2, Quentin Ives, dealt with an injury right at the beginning of camp. They have a true freshman who's been shifting spots. This is Isaiah Mosey, who's been shifting spots from running back to slot receiver to cover up for an injury. And then Mekhi Nelson, who has most consistently been in that RB2 spot, he sat out the Houston Baptist game, coach's decision. So this haven't been able to get consistency. Holgerson, the OC, said on Tuesday in Lincoln that you're going to see some things at the running back spot that you haven't seen before this year. So teasing the Nebraska media and the Nebraska fans just a little bit. I don't know what that's going to be. If they're going to play 2 running back, they're going to go to some 2-back stuff to mix it up. If they're going to be more consistent in what the rotation is, if somebody else is going to jump in there, perhaps Mosey, the freshman I mentioned, as the second running back. It's hard to say at this point, but they need to do something different to give Emmett Johnson some help. That's the only way that this run game can be efficient through a 12-game gauntlet that they're going to face. Six consecutive games now in 6 weeks after this bye. So Johnson is going to need help. And no, the running game has not been up to what they expected through these first 4 games.
Now, how about the run game, but on the other side, on the defensive side? Because obviously that was a rough outing against Michigan, as much as us Michigan State fans also hated to see that. We were counting on you guys. Come on. But
Right. I know Nebraska wished that it could have helped more.
That's okay. We'll forgive you guys. Was that just a byproduct, though, of Michigan just being really good at the run? Are there actually cracks in the run defense, you think? What did you make of that whole situation 2 weeks ago here?
Yeah. So you have to be careful when you talk about this, because Michigan had 3 big plays that accounted for almost 170 yards of their 280 rushing yards. Now,
that'll help.
3 big plays are 3 big plays. They produced 21 points. You can't just say, oh, well, you take those 3 plays out. No, you can't take the 3 plays out. They were 3 touchdowns. It was a 75-yard run. We saw Justice Haynes have the 75-yard run against Oklahoma, and then he did it again against Nebraska. Underwood had a long run. So on the plays where Nebraska was in the right position defensively, it actually did all right against Michigan in the run game. The problem is they have a tendency to get out of position and then not to fill the gaps. A little bit of difficulty getting off blocks. John Butler, Nebraska's defensive coordinator, talked pretty straight this week about what happened in that Michigan game and the explosive plays. He said, we didn't tackle well and we didn't get off blocks. And, if that happens and you combine it with players that have the speed that Underwood and Haynes do, they get a crack. Their offensive linemen are open in just a little hole and it's over. 2 of those 3 long runs, the backs were untouched. And, that's Nebraska's allowed 4 runs over 30 yards this year, had trouble with Brendan Sorsby, the dynamic Cincinnati quarterback, in week 1. So the run defense is an issue. And also to quote Butler, the DC, he said, run defense is about attitude, and they're kind of challenging the toughness, I would say, of their defensive players here in this bye week. And in some ways of their offensive players too. Pass protection is also, and these are my words, but pass protection is also a little bit about mentality and not giving the defensive ends on the other side too much respect, so that you're backing into your quarterback and making that pocket small, like we saw from the Nebraska offensive tackles many times in that Michigan game. So Nebraska just has to get tougher at the line of scrimmage, in the place where, I think it's most concerning that it could be a season-long thing is on the defensive side, because they've just had a hard time being buttoned up in run defense, and the big plays happen.
Really quick question before we flip the script here, and you grill me about my Spartans, but the number one concern for Nebraska fans going into this game is...
Yeah, it's the offensive line. Yeah. Okay. And that's just like an old, standby, an old talking point. Nebraska fans, and it's not the Nebraska fans in general, but especially the fans who have been around this program for a long time, are spoiled with great offensive line play.
Yeah.
And, many of the fans who were spoiled don't even know why they're spoiled, because they don't remember the days of Nebraska having Outland Trophy winners and All-Americans, year after year after year up front. But they do recognize that, like, that is the lineage, that is the tradition, that is the history of the program. And the expectation is, all right, like, maybe you're not going to run for 400 yards a game. In fact, there's no way you're going to run for 400 yards a game or have the kind of accolades thrown on your offensive linemen that you did 20 and 30 years ago. But can you at least, like, be up to the standard that exists in, like, the upper division of the Big Ten? And there was a lot of hope this year that was going to be this group, that Donovan Raiola had built that kind of a group that's veteran led, that's deeper. Nebraska struck it pretty big, or so it thought, in the transfer portal this offseason on the offensive line with Elijah Pritchett, the Alabama. He was a starter at Alabama at right tackle last year and hasn't been playing at Nebraska this season at left tackle because it just hasn't come together for him. When he's come into games, he's had false start penalties and been immediately pulled right back out of the game. It happened on the goal line at the 1 yard line in the season opener against Cincinnati. You just can't have that. So they were inconsistent at the tackle position, more than inconsistent. They were bad at the tackle position against Michigan. So, that going through the bye week and here continuing on into this week ahead of Michigan State is absolutely, I would say, the thing that's making Nebraska fans most nervous. So I've got some questions that I want to ask you. We're going to get to that. But first, let's talk about a couple of sponsors here for the Locked On Nebraska and Locked On Spartan podcast. I want to talk about FanDuel because the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. You can get player props, build a same-game parlay, even jump in as the live action unfolds. Maybe this week in the NFL, you're looking at a Thursday night game, 49ers at the Rams, big divisional games. Rams are a 5.5-point favorite. How about the Broncos? Fresh off a Monday night win, 4.5-point dogs at the unbeaten Eagles this week, who have won ugly all through September. FanDuel makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays and your Thursdays and your Mondays and your Saturdays too, if you're into college football, which all of us are here at the Locked On Podcast Network. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Also, this episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or that corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. I know around East Lansing, around Lincoln, there are neighborhood businesses that thrive. When the neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Local spots in every neighborhood come alive during football season because of Square. Everyone's in team colors. The energy is incredible, and it feels like the entire block is cheering on the teams together. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, support your favorite neighborhood spots. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. All right. Back with you, Locked On Crossover Podcast, final segment. Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans is with me. I am Mitch Sherman of The Athletic and the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Matt, this has been great to go through this matchup with you. I want to grill you a little bit right now about this Michigan State program and this Michigan State team. So you talked about Jonathan Smith a little bit in the first segment. He's 8-8 at Michigan State. In his second season, of course. This is after 6 years at Oregon State. Nebraska fans know that Oregon State lineage a little bit. Jonathan Smith was recruited to Oregon State by former Nebraska coach Mike Riley, later coached under Riley as a grad assistant in Corvallis during Riley's second stint at Oregon State. So he's California born and raised, only coached out west before landing at Michigan State last year. What is the temperature around him and the patience for this thing to build under Jonathan Smith?
I try my best to have the pulse of the fan base. I like to think that I do a decent enough job, and I don't ever remember opinions being as split on anything here ever since I've started doing Locked On Spartans 5-6 years ago. I forget how long I've been doing this. And that goes for football or basketball opinions. It truly feels divided. that half this fan base is just ready to fund the buyout themselves. They're just going to pack the U-Haul for him and drive him back to the West Coast where he belongs. And then there's the other 50% that are looking at it like, yeah, it took like 3-4 years to rebuild Oregon State. Yeah, Michigan State was a much bigger mess than a lot of people lead on from a culture standpoint, finance standpoint, resource standpoint. It doesn't just happen overnight at all places. What doesn't help is that Curt Cignetti doing the same thing down there, flip the switch on just like that. If Curt Cignetti didn't exist, I think a lot more people would be very patient. Wow. But here we are, have to make recruiting the inroads. You got to refill this roster that was pretty much neglected by the previous regime because they didn't fill out classes. They didn't fill out portal classes. So I am more on the patient side, the more understanding of how big of a project this really is for Jonathan Smith. Am I thrilled with everything going on? No, but he still gets a passing grade from me. So I like him, but boy, that is not like the overwhelming majority of this fan base right now.
Isn't it amazing that Cignetti storyline just looms so large? You know, it's obvious for somebody like Smith, who's also in his second year when he came in at the same time into the league, into a program that seemingly was in a better place than what Indiana was. And you see Indiana with one college football playoff appearance and perhaps on track for another one. But it's a shadow for every coach in the Big Ten, unless you're Ryan Day or maybe Kirk Ferentz. But Matt Rhule lives with that too in his third year at Nebraska. Like, hey, why is this so easy at Indiana of all places? Nebraska went there, got beat 56-17 last year, and I know the Spartans have a game coming up at Indiana in a couple of weeks, which leads me into my next question that I have for you. So, okay, this October for Michigan State, they have Nebraska, go to UCLA. No, UCLA comes to East Lansing.
Yeah.
Indiana on the road, and then Michigan at Michigan in East Lansing. Am I correct on that?
I got it. Yep,
okay.
That is
all right.
East Lansing.
So I know which one of those 4 games ranks as the most important for Michigan State and
LA,
Michigan
that's
State
right.
fans.
Down with the Bruins. That's right.
UCLA.
That's right.
Where does Nebraska fit into this lineup of games? I mean, you mentioned earlier about the kind of the house money conversation, but how do you fit this with UCLA, Indiana, and Michigan?
That is a really good question on the fly here. Yeah, it goes without saying Michigan's number one far and beyond. Okay, like no hot takes there.
Mm-hmm.
I would put the UCLA game second, and for a weird reason, because if you beat them this year, woo, great, okay, awesome. That's just another step closer to 6 wins. You're supposed to pummel a team that has looked that bad. But if they don't win that game, Mitch, 50-50 split on Jonathan Smith, woo, that's going to be a 90-10 split against him if he loses that game. So just what you could lose if you lose that game, I think is why it gets maybe a little more importance over Nebraska, a game that you're not necessarily expected to win, but maybe that's just more of a glass half empty way of thinking this because, again, a win here would do a lot of goodwill for Michigan State. So that's why I'm going to slot Nebraska third. And maybe Indiana's just fourth because between me and you, I'm going to edit this part out. I'm going to pre-record that post-game show. That's how bad I think that one's going to get. Like, I can't even let myself get into just the realm of victory for that one. So that's why I have it fourth. It just doesn't even seem like a real possibility to me. So that's how I'm going to rank that Mount Rushmore.
I don't know if you felt the same way that I did if you were watching and we both cover teams that were on a bye last week. So I loved last Saturday, and it just gave me the opportunity to watch Big Ten football and national college football for like 14 hours. And as that game, that Indiana at Iowa game came down to the wire, and it kind of looked to me, at least, because I've seen Iowa do it to other teams, mostly Nebraska, just pull them out, like out Iowa, like turn the game into just a junk fest. I thought Iowa was going to win. And I thought, man, there are a lot of people around the Big Ten who really want this to happen, who are going to say if Iowa wins, or maybe they won't say it, but they'll think it, that needed to happen to Indiana and Curt Cignetti. And then it didn't happen. So it's such an interesting conversation and what's going on in Bloomington right now. And they're not on Nebraska's schedule this year. I almost kind of wish they were, just because I like to be around and just like around things that people nationally are talking about in college football.
Get your licks.
All right.
Right. I know.
Yeah. Question for you about the quarterback.
Let's do it.
Aidan Chiles.
Oh, yeah.
Dynamic guy. Nebraska's seen Brendan Sorsby, as I mentioned, Bryce Underwood. Chiles actually runs it more than both of them. 39 carries through 4 games. How much should Nebraska fans at Memorial Stadium on Saturday expect to see him use his feet?
That is a fantastic question because it's not like they've been doing a ton of design runs. I think a good amount of those have been out of scramble situations. That's not to say like they're never deploying him on design runs. They are, but I think maybe out of the bye week is where you start to see it a little cranked up right now. Maybe get to like 8, 9, 10 design runs from the quarterback position. But yeah, he's electric. He's a tough runner. And I mean, the most dangerous he is with his legs is extending plays to still pass the ball. It's not just, hey, going downhill 9 yards for a rush. It's, oh, great, here we go for the 20th time this game. I got someone burning me up on the edge right now. I need to extend this play, find someone downfield, and make magic happen. He is so good at just evading pressure in the pocket. So for a line like Michigan State that has had some injury issues, that's been important, unfortunately, so far this season. But, yeah, look no further than the Boston College game of him extending plays with his legs and also doing damage on those design runs. But I am really curious to see how many actual design runs he will be deployed on as we get into the second half-ish part of the season, we'll call it.
All right, final thing for you, Matt, on this crossover podcast. Michigan State's pass defense. I look at it, I see the numbers, 263.5 yards per game, worst in the Big Ten, allowed 9 touchdowns. A 67.6 opponent completion percentage. That's 119th nationally. How much of a problem is this for the Spartans coming to Lincoln?
Big, massive. I'm actually shocked it's as low as 66.7% completion. Like it feels like it should be 87. That's what it feels like when I'm watching these games. But no, Mitch, it's horrible. And I know we're at the end of the show here. I'll try not to monologue for 10 minutes, but
go ahead.
Last year's pass rush was, like, in a way, historically bad. Like, there was a graphic shown on these games in the middle of the season, like, hey, it's been 5 games since they've had a sack. It's been 6 games since they've had a sack. And that's been the longest stretch in FBS for the last 25-plus years. And I don't think it even got much better this offseason. They've tried to get some kids from the portal, but this day and age in the portal, it's not just as easy as going out and getting a day one starter, especially when you're not going to spend as much money as Michigan State did, because they had to, do so many different things with so many different position groups. I digress. The pass rush is non-existent, and they're trying blitzes. Those blitzes don't get home. So now the secondary players, who are also largely all transfers at the cornerback position, I think they're just fine. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're horrible, but I think they are helpless back there because the quarterback has all day to throw. I mean, we faced USC, 0 sacks. Boston College, 0 sacks. You want to go back to last year? I mean, I just rattle off the stat for you. Starting to get borderline upset here, but it is a massive problem, Mitch, because we can't get to the quarterback. They've tried different ways to get to the quarterback, and at this point in the season, it's not like you can just go out and get a free agent or make a trade. Like, you are who you are at this point, personnel-wise, and boy, does it seem like it's not going anywhere on defense right now. So, yeah, I would take over for any Dylan Raiola prop bet that FanDuel's offering. I mean,
okay. All right. That's good to know. Is it more the pass rush or more that lack of cohesiveness on the back end?
I would put it 65-35 leaning the pass rush right now. There have been some spots, too, where, okay, quarterback gets the ball out, receivers there, and why isn't any corner in the frame of the camera right now? Like, what's going on? But I think it is more so of the pass rush. I truly do.
All right. Well, hey, this was great, Matt. Awesome to be with you today. Thanks to everyone in both of our audiences for joining us. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Locked On Spartans and Locked On Nebraska. Matt will be back with more shows this week. I'll be back with my co-host Connor Happer to finish up the week 2, and then we'll all be talking about what happens in Lincoln on Saturday. These teams are 4-4 against each other since Nebraska joined the league. So for now, it's the rubber match before the Huskers go to East Lansing next year. Michigan State has won the last 2 in this series. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. For now, it is another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside Gary Patterson and former college star Jesse Holley, also Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV.